I have no desire to make my brother my best man at my wedding. I know traditionally that's what you're supposed to do, and my parents are both insistent that I do so, and that it would be an insult not to, but here are my reasons for not doing so. 1. He is horrible to, well, everyone, but especially to my fiancé. He has severe anger issues that get set off for no particular reason, where he starts yelling at everyone, telling them all the reasons he hates them, they're stupid, / he's superior, etc. However, with her, it's especially bad. He hates her, even though she is incredibly nice to him and goes out of her way to do him favors and kind gestures. 2. Relating to reason number 1, he's treated me terribly his whole life. He makes it no secret that he despises everyone, but because I'm the only one who stands up to his bullying, he hates me especially. The rest of my family is content with he just came that way. But I strongly believe he's only gotten worse as he's gotten older, because my parents bend to his every whim. All he needs to do is start yelling and throw a tantrum, enabling the behavior. The way I see it, your best man should be someone you have a good relationship with, not someone who hates you just for existing in the same house. If I had it my way, he wouldn't come to the wedding at all. He'll show up to find ways to get as much attention as humanly possible, because he's also a complete narcissist. But he won't make my wedding any better by being there. For me or my fiancé, he'll make it worse. Again, my parents insist I am in the wrong not to have him as my best man. Is this wedding tradition really so important and ingrained that I'd be a jerk for not sticking to it? To add, I truly didn't expect such a widely unanimous answer here. From the outside looking in, I guess it's completely clear who's in the right here, but as was maybe obvious, my whole upbringing has been about appeasing the narcissists in my life, my mother and brother, and the consequences for not doing so were always severe. So such topics are not as obvious to me. You're all very kind to take time out of your day to help me think through this logically, without the pollution of my mother's guilt-tripping or threat of my brother's adult meltdown. At this point, I'm settled on not having him as my best man or being in my wedding party. I'm also considering not inviting him at all. My hang-up on that is my hope to minimize drama, not just at the wedding, but after. If I don't invite him, my mother will spend the entire wedding telling people nonsense about why I am indeed a jerk for not inviting him, and that he's really sweet now. Oh, he's not like that anymore. It's been so long since you've seen him, he's grown up. OP is just a crybaby and drama queen who wanted to make a point since they're so different. Now the solution to that is clear. Just don't invite mom either. My worry there is that I'll never hear the end of it from extended family and family friends who are going, and it'll be the topic of gossip and a whole goddamn thing. She, of course, would never forgive me, and that would be the end of our relationship as well, which is not what I want. So right now I'm thinking I'll put him in the back and let the bar know to limit his drinks because, shocker, alcohol makes him way worse. My real wedding party will have multiple veterans, recently retired, so they can more than handle throwing his butt out should the need arise. In my mind, while this will also be dramatic and create a scene, everyone will be forced to see his behavior firsthand, instead of my mother's version, which will paint me as the jerk and him as the angel. This will both get him out of the wedding and prevent him not being there from being the focus of the day instead of my bride, and no one can say I didn't give him a chance. Also, if he turns out to actually behave himself and shut up, maybe a 15–20% chance, then that's cool too. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but I have never heard of it being expected that your brother is the de facto best man. What if you had 2 brothers? The best man is a job for somebody you can trust, somebody who can actually handle things like planning, damage control, and public speaking, among other things. Sometimes a best friend isn't even the right person for the job. If your parents are going to make your wedding all about your brother if he doesn't get his way, then you're better off eloping, period. If you don't, prepare to add hired security to your wedding budget. Comment 2. Not the idiot, not even a wedding tradition. My brother and I are very close, but he was not my best man. He was a groomsman. I'm guessing your brother is trying to make this all about himself, and your parents are enabling him. If any of my siblings treated my spouse poorly, not only would they not have been in the wedding party, they wouldn't have been invited to the wedding at all. If anyone tried to advocate for them, they would have been disinvited as well. Full stop. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. 3 months ago, I was grappling with the decision of whether or not to have my brother as my best man at my wedding. Well, things have escalated since then. First off, I decided to have a serious conversation with my parents about my brother's behavior. I laid everything out on the table, explaining how his anger issues and narcissism have affected me and my fiancée. My parents were initially defensive, but I think they started to see my point when I mentioned specific incidents where my brother's behavior was particularly egregious. Around this time, my fiancée and I were also finalizing our guest list. We decided to invite my brother but not include him in the wedding party. This decision didn't sit well with my parents, who continued to pressure me to make him the best man. They even went as far as to say they might not attend the wedding if I didn't comply. This was a tough pill to swallow, but I stood my ground. I told them that if they couldn't support my decision, then maybe it was best they didn't come. Meanwhile, my brother caught wind of the situation. He called me up furious and demanded to know why he wasn't my best man. I tried to explain calmly, but he wouldn't listen. He went on a tirade about how I was ruining the family and how my fiancée was manipulating me. This conversation ended with him hanging up on me, and I felt a mix of relief and dread. A week later, my brother showed up at my apartment unannounced. He was visibly agitated and started yelling as soon as I opened the door. My fiancée was there and she tried to calm him down, but it only made things worse. He started throwing things around, and it got to the point where I had to call the police. They arrived quickly and managed to de-escalate the situation, but the damage was done. My brother was taken away, and I was left to clean up the mess, both literally and emotionally. This incident was a turning point for my parents. They finally saw firsthand how volatile my brother could be. They apologized for not believing me earlier and agreed that it was best if he wasn't involved in the wedding. They even offered to help with any additional security measures we might need. This was a small victory, but it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. As the wedding day approached, I started to feel a bit more at ease. My fiancée and I were busy with last-minute preparations, and things were falling into place. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something might go wrong. My brother had been eerily quiet since the incident, and I couldn't help but wonder what he was planning. On the day of the wedding, everything seemed to be going smoothly. The ceremony was beautiful, and my fiancée looked stunning. We were surrounded by friends and family who genuinely cared about us. But just as we were about to start the reception, my brother showed up. He wasn't on the guest list, but somehow he managed to get in. He was clearly intoxicated and started causing a scene almost immediately. My parents and I tried to talk to him, but he was beyond reasoning. He started yelling and making a spectacle of himself. That's when my friends, the veterans I mentioned earlier, stepped in. They escorted him out of the venue, and I could hear him shouting all sorts of obscenities as they did. It was embarrassing, but it was also a relief to see him go. After he was gone, the atmosphere lightened considerably. People were talking about what had happened, but it wasn't the focus of the evening. My fiancée and I were able to enjoy our reception, and it turned out to be a wonderful night despite the earlier drama. In the weeks following the wedding, I had to deal with the fallout. My brother was furious and sent me a series of angry messages. My parents were supportive, but also worried about the long-term impact on our family. Extended family members had mixed reactions. Some understood my decision while others thought I had overreacted. One evening, I was talking to my dad about everything that had happened. He shared a story from when my brother and I were kids. Apparently, my brother had always been difficult, even as a child. My parents had tried various methods to manage his behavior, but nothing seemed to work. My dad admitted that they had given up at some point, hoping he would grow out of it. This revelation made me realize that my brother's issues were deeply rooted and not something that could be easily fixed. I also learned more about my mom's background. She had grown up in a household where appearances were everything. Her parents had been very strict, and she had always felt the need to present a perfect family image. This explained why she had been so insistent on having my brother as the best man. She was more concerned about what people would think than about my happiness. These insights didn't change my feelings about my brother, but they did help me understand my parents better. I realized that they were also victims of their upbringing and were doing the best they could with the tools they had. This understanding made it easier for me to forgive them and move forward. As for my brother, I decided to cut off contact for the time being. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was necessary for my mental health and the well-being of my new family. My parents were disappointed, but understood my reasons. They promised to support me no matter what. So that's where things stand now. My wedding was a mix of joy and chaos, but in the end, it was a day I'll never forget. Thank you all for reading. Am I the idiot for refusing to let my maid of honor bring a +1 to my wedding? My 28-year-old female am getting married soon. The guest list is creeping up to over 100 people, including lots of family and friends. We have booked a fancy venue for the wedding. My best friend, 27 years old, female, who has been my friend since first grade and is my maid of honor, has been insisting for months that she should be allowed to bring a +1 to my wedding. However, there's a problem. She is currently single. I love her, but to be honest, she has a history of dating the wrong type of people. I really don't want an unpredictable stranger at my wedding, especially one that my friend has only known for a week. Additionally, she has a track record of engaging in explicit public displays of affection, and I don't trust her to behave appropriately at my wedding if she brings a date. So I gave her an ultimatum: no significant other, no +1. At first she thought I was joking and called me a witch when she realized I was serious. She accused me of not considering her feelings and claimed that she wouldn't enjoy my wedding without a date. She argued that as the maid of honor, she is obligated to have a date. However, I don't believe I'm being unreasonable. I simply want to avoid unnecessary stress on my big day by worrying about how a stranger will behave. Despite all of this, she is making me feel like I'm the one in the wrong for telling her no. It does make me feel bad that we are fighting over this. Am I being unreasonable? To provide additional information, I am only allowing +1s for friends and family who are in serious, long-term relationships. Their names will be specified on the invitation, as I personally know all of them and I am aware of their behavior. Nobody is receiving a random +1. My friend doesn't even have a specific person in mind, but she is still arguing with me about bringing someone. She seems to think that I will wait until the last minute to allow her to bring a date. Yes, she is my best friend, and I care about her deeply. She is perfectly fine on her own, but her behavior changes drastically when she is with a date. I simply want her to be there for me and not make the day all about hooking up with a stranger at my wedding. However, she feels obligated to do so for some reason. I almost forgot to mention, she will not be alone at the wedding. She knows not only my friends, but also my entire family, her own parents, and both of her sisters, who will also be attending. Wow, I didn't expect to receive so many comments. Thank you all for sharing your perspectives. I want to clarify that I'm not trying to be mean to my friend. It's just that I trust the guys she dates even less than I trust her to behave appropriately. They have always made a bad impression, and I have been embarrassed by her past dates at various events or outings, only for them to disappear the next day. I simply don't want some random person to cause drama at my wedding. Okay, here's some more information. The wedding is in 2 months, and I need to send out RSVPs soon. As for her maid of honor duties, they mainly involve assisting me with small tasks, giving a speech, and planning the bachelorette party. I will be covering the costs for everything related to the bachelorette party, except for activities and transportation, which will be split among my friends. I don't expect her to pay for anything without my help. Also, I want to emphasize that my fiancé is also against her bringing a stranger for the same reasons. So it's not just me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Limiting +1s to spouses and those in committed relationships is very reasonable. Weddings are not date nights, but for those close to the couple. However, in our neck of the woods, all members of the bridal party get +1s. But you are entitled to your choices, and maid of honor should lay off pressuring you otherwise. Comment 2. I've been a +1 for a member of the wedding party, and it was dull. They are effectively at work. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all of this. So 2 weeks have passed since I last updated you, and a lot has happened. My best friend and I had a huge argument over the phone about the +1 situation. She was still adamant that she should be allowed to bring a date, and I stood my ground. Things got pretty heated, and she ended up hanging up on me. I felt terrible, but I knew I had to stick to my decision for the sake of my wedding. A few days later, she called me back, and we had a more civil conversation. She apologized for calling me a witch and admitted that she was feeling insecure about attending the wedding alone. She said she felt like everyone else would be coupled up, and she didn't want to feel like the odd one out. I tried to reassure her that she wouldn't be alone and that she knew almost everyone at the wedding, but she still seemed upset. In the meantime, I had to deal with some other wedding-related issues. My cousin, who is also attending the wedding, called me to say that she had broken up with her long-term boyfriend. She asked if she could bring a friend instead, and I had to tell her no, as I was sticking to my rule about plus ones. She was disappointed, but understood my reasoning. Then out of the blue, my best friend showed up at my apartment. She looked really upset and told me that she had been thinking a lot about our argument. She said she realized that she had been selfish and that she didn't want to ruin our friendship over this. She promised that she would come to the wedding alone and that she would be on her best behavior. I was relieved and grateful that she was willing to put our friendship first. However, just when I thought things were settling down, my fiance's ex-girlfriend reached out to him. She had heard about our upcoming wedding and wanted to catch up. My fiancé assured me that he had no interest in rekindling anything with her, but it still made me uneasy. I couldn't help but wonder if she had ulterior motives. My fiancé and I had a long talk about it, and he promised to keep his distance from her. I trust him, but it was still a stressful situation. As the wedding day approached, I started to feel the pressure of all the planning and organizing. My best friend was a huge help, and she really stepped up in her maid of honor duties. She helped me with the seating arrangements, picked up my dress from the tailor, and even organized a surprise spa day for me to help me relax. I was so grateful for her support, and it reminded me why she was my best friend in the first place. But then, just a week before the wedding, my best friend dropped the news. She confessed that she had been seeing someone new for the past few weeks, and that she really wanted him to come to the wedding. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. She assured me that he was different from her past boyfriends and that he would be on his best behavior. I felt torn because I didn't want to go back on my decision, but I also didn't want to hurt her feelings. After a lot of thought, I decided to meet her new boyfriend. We arranged to have dinner together, and I have to admit, he seemed like a genuinely nice guy. He was polite, respectful, and seemed to really care about my best friend. I could see why she liked him, but I still had my reservations. I told her that I needed some time to think about it, and she understood. In the end, I decided to allow her to bring him to the wedding. I made it clear that I expected them both to be on their best behavior and that any drama would not be tolerated. My best friend was overjoyed and promised that they would respect my wishes. I felt a bit uneasy about my decision, but I hoped that everything would go smoothly. As the wedding day finally arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. My best friend and her new boyfriend showed up, and to my relief, they were both on their best behavior. The ceremony went off without a hitch, and the reception was a blast. Everyone seemed to be having a great time, and I was finally able to relax and enjoy my special day. However, there was one moment during the reception that caught me off guard. My best friend's new boyfriend pulled me aside and thanked me for allowing him to attend the wedding. He said that he knew how much my best friend valued our friendship and that he didn't want to come between us. His words really touched me, and I realized that maybe I had been too quick to judge him. Looking back, I can see that my best friend's insecurities and my own need for control had caused a lot of unnecessary stress. But in the end, everything worked out, and our friendship is stronger than ever. I learned that sometimes it's important to trust the people you care about and to be open to new possibilities. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for refusing to let my wife's toxic parents use our son as a pawn? I guess to set the stage, I'll, 31-year-old male, just say that my wife's, Cami, 38-year-old female, parents have always been terrible people. When she graduated from high school, she went to college and only came home for short visits. Her relationship with her parents has always been strained. For me, in low doses, they are tolerable, and sometimes even funny, but they are the joke. When they would come to visit, they would stay a week or more and act like our house was a bed and breakfast and they were on vacation. One time I asked them to take our son to school because I had some meetings, and my mother-in-law actually said that they were on vacation, not here to run our errands. And besides, Cammie should be taking him to school because she's the mom. They are big on traditional wife roles. The supposed point of their visits is to spend time with their grandson, but there was frankly little of that. He would come home from school and they would say hi, but go back to watching Newsmax and the World War II channel. After their last visit, I told my wife that the next time they should stay in a hotel. I work from home, and they have no boundaries or respect for others. All fun and games when dealing with family. But recently, they finally went too far, and my wife went no contact with them. We were having a marital issue, and she moved out for a few weeks. Once they found out, they took it to a whole different level, and it went from classic over-the-top traditional wife roles, religious hypocrite, boomers being fool's nonsense, to vicious. When she stopped answering their calls/texts/emails, they started in on me. I have only responded once, telling them that they were in the wrong and need to apologize to their daughter, and they can't use me to do an end around. I haven't told them that we've reconciled and my wife is back home, but even if she was a hated ex, I would not let these fools use me to bypass her. Cammie and I have planned a family vacation, and one of the recent emails from my in-laws stated that they intend to just show up uninvited. As it turns out, it will be while we are gone. They want to see their grandson, and because they think we are still separated, stated that Cammie wouldn't even have to know. Do I break the no contact and tell them that we won't be there? It seems cruel to let them come and knock on the door and not even know that we are gone. On the other hand, it's pretty presumptuous to just demand a visit and tell me when and not ask if that works for us. I also feel like if I respond, I'll be opening the door and they would just demand to come some other time. To me, this is a problem they need to solve with their daughter. Now for some additional info, I have security cameras, a Ring doorbell, an alarm system, and a nosy neighbor. I have also removed their code from the electronic locks. I will know if they show up. In the end, to contact them or not is my wife's call. I'm just getting ready for the conversation. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. I thought I was going to go the other way based on your title, but they are not invited. I get why it feels cruel, but they are not welcome at your home, so they should get whatever consequences that come with showing up anyway. Whether that's Cammie indoors, simply not letting them in, or you guys physically being away on vacation. And as a partner, I think it's important to respect Cammie's no contact. Comment 2, you maintain your no contact, but this needs to be passed over to Cammie to decide how she wants to respond to this. Sounds like they need some serious boundary lessons. A really good one is to show up unexpected to have no one there. I agree with the previous person. Make sure you have cameras to protect your property. But this needs to be Cammie's decision, not yours. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So 3 months have passed since I last updated you all, and a lot has happened. Cammie and I went ahead with our family vacation, and it was great to get away from everything for a bit. We decided not to tell her parents about our trip, figuring it was best to maintain the no contact rule. We left our house secure with the cameras, alarm system, and our nosy neighbor keeping an eye out. While we were away, my in-laws did show up at our house. They knocked on the door, rang the bell, and even tried to use their old code on the electronic lock. When they couldn't get in, they called and texted me repeatedly. I didn't respond, sticking to our plan. Our neighbor later told us they looked pretty frustrated and left after about an hour of trying to get in touch with us. When we got back from our trip, we found a note from them shoved under the door. It was a long, guilt-tripping letter about how we were keeping their grandson away from them and how disrespectful it was not to inform them of our plans. They even mentioned that they had brought gifts for our son and were disappointed they couldn't give them to him in person. Cammie read the letter and was visibly upset, but she didn't want to break the no contact rule. She felt it was just another manipulation tactic. A couple of weeks later, things took a turn. Cammie's parents somehow found out that we were back together and living under the same roof. We suspect it was through a mutual acquaintance who saw us out and about. They started bombarding us with emails and voicemails, demanding an explanation and insisting on a family meeting to resolve things. Cammie was torn. Part of her wanted to confront them and set boundaries once and for all, but another part of her was scared of the emotional toll it would take. Then came the risk that could either make or break everything. Cammie's parents threatened to take legal action to gain visitation rights to see their grandson. They claimed that we were unfit parents for keeping him away from his grandparents and that they had a right to be in his life. This was a huge blow to us. We knew they were manipulative, but we never thought they would go this far. We consulted a lawyer to understand our options. The lawyer explained that while grandparents' rights vary by state, it was unlikely they would win a case unless they could prove we were unfit parents. However, the mere thought of going through a legal battle was daunting. It would be emotionally draining, financially costly, and could potentially drag on for months or even years. Cammie was devastated. She felt guilty for putting our family in this position and was worried about the impact it would have on our son. She started questioning whether going no contact was the right decision. Maybe, she thought, it would have been better to maintain a superficial relationship with her parents to avoid all this drama. I tried to reassure her that we were doing what was best for our family, but I could see the toll it was taking on her. In the midst of all this, our son started asking questions about his grandparents. He overheard some of our conversations and wanted to know why he couldn't see them. This was heartbreaking for both of us. We tried to explain in age-appropriate terms that sometimes adults have disagreements and need time apart. But it was clear that he missed them, despite their flaws. As the weeks went by, the stress started to affect our relationship. Cammie and I began arguing more frequently. She was overwhelmed with guilt and anxiety, and I was frustrated with the situation and worried about the future. We tried to keep things normal for our son, but the tension was obvious. One night, after a particularly heated argument, Cammie broke down and said she couldn't take it anymore. She felt like she was being torn apart by her loyalty to her parents and her desire to protect our family. She suggested that maybe we should reach out to them and try to find a middle ground. I was hesitant, but I could see how much she was struggling. We decided to draft a carefully worded email to her parents, outlining our boundaries and conditions for any future contact. We made it clear that any disrespect or manipulation would result in immediate termination of contact. We also insisted that any visits with our son would be supervised and on our terms. We sent the email and waited anxiously for their response. When it came, it was a mixed bag. They agreed to some of our conditions but pushed back on others. They still wanted more access to our son than we were comfortable with and refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing on their part. It was clear that they were not willing to fully respect our boundaries. Cammie was crushed. She had hoped that this could be a step towards reconciliation, but it was clear that her parents were not willing to meet us halfway. We were back to square one, with the added stress of a potential legal battle looming over us. In the end, we decided to stick to our original plan and maintain no contact. It was a tough decision, but we felt it was the best way to protect our family. We knew it wouldn't be easy and there would be more challenges ahead, but we were determined to face them together. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.